Nobody tells you that making friends as an adult man is one of the most difficult things you'll ever try to do. And almost no one talks about it honestly. So, how do we make friends as adult men? Well, this framework comes from social psychology, and it's essentially the proximity. So, how close you are to someone relationally or even geographically, repetition, so how often you're seeing them, how many touch points you have, and unplanned interaction. Now, unplanned interaction is a random text or invite to go do something. Or once you start getting to know each other and what you like, reaching out and mentioning that you saw this or heard that, etc. But it's essentially spontaneous bids for connection where you invite each other into some sort of dialogue based on something you've observed. Now, adult life removes all three of these factors in the formula that create friendships organically. The problem with proximity is we often don't live close to people, or if we do, we're on our phones and we're not paying attention. We're not going out to what is known as third spaces, essentially churches, bars, restaurants, clubs, gathering places, essentially where you can meet other people. Then, two, repetition. We live busy lives. All of us work and potentially our parents, or you're very involved in different aspects of your life that make you have very little time to commit to making friends. And then unplanned interaction, because our lives are so full and busy, we very rarely leave room for spontaneity. And so it can be difficult from a mental perspective to have enough space to think about someone else and connecting with them in an unstructured manner. Then there's the infamous asking for another guy's number problem. It feels so strange and awkward, yet you should do it anyway. It's totally normal. Women do it all the time. If you are wanting to make some sort of network connection, we do it. So why do we feel weird when we want to make a new friend? It's requires confidence and calmness and just acting normal about it. So here's how you do it, okay? Imagine there's a guy that's in this third space that you're hanging out in, and you've had a few touch points enough to know that you want to ask him to hang out. You just walk up to him and you say, "Hey man, I've enjoyed chatting with you. Wondering if you'd ever be down to fill in the blank activity wise. Grab a beer, go for a run, play video games, um, etc." But what you want to do is you want to validate and acknowledge the connection you've already made, which essentially primes and sets you up for asking for the number. But then you got to ask, well, what is the purpose of asking for that number? It's to do something. Now, that something can be primarily relational, meaning you just sit down and hang out, or it could be more activities based, like the examples I mentioned. But again, as long as you are calm, as long as you are confident, and as long as you are direct, you're just forthright and you just say it, matter of fact, then there's usually no problem. And just like dating, you will almost always get the number. But if that person doesn't actually want to hang out, or they're not mature enough to be consistent or respond in a timely manner, then that's okay. It'll naturally fade away. But why not take the risk and do it? The tip here is finding a shared context, because this is the fastest path to male friendship depth. And it includes a shared challenge or interest, whether that's physical, creative, or anything meaningful. When it comes to a challenge, suffering together and having to go through something difficult bonds us as humans. We know this. If you've ever experienced a death or someone getting sick, or just anything that we go through with other people that's really difficult, it means a lot because we're essentially inviting them into a burden, something that is inconvenient by nature, but that lets them know that you really care. So that's the first one. The second one, interest, then it gives you an easy thing to talk about. You know, many of us men can struggle with, well, what do I say and how do I talk to another guy? And if you have a shared interest, something like a video game or a book, or maybe it's a board game like Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, then you can actually base the conversation around that topic to start. And then from there, you can get to know someone, which we'll get into at a later video. Okay, so you've identified a guy you want to be friends with. And by the way, if we're trying to assess for what makes a good friend, here are some traits to look for: someone that is a good listener, someone that asks follow up questions, even if they're really basic, someone who is disciplined and takes care of their body and mind and spirit through the different habits that we can have as humans, someone that is funny or creative, someone that is considerate or intentional. In a lot of ways, it's very similar to the traits we look for in a romantic relationship. Obviously, it's just platonic in this case, but nonetheless, you look for these signs that may reveal that someone may be a good friend. Okay, so you look for these signs, you know that this guy has them, you've done that awkward but necessary step of initiating and getting his number. You've found either shared interest or challenge to do. So then you start hanging out and it's awesome. You continue to do the activities together, you're building conversations, getting to know each other, but then you hit another wall. Now, this wall happens when you start going from more surface level down a little deeper to the real stuff. So, this is what I call the depth move. So, how do we make that? Well, it's by asking a real question, not how's work or something surface level, because that's factual, that's informational, that's telling you something that's a bit more surface level. Instead, ask something like, what's been hard for you lately? Or what's been top of mind? And that either tells you that someone's been thinking about something a lot, so it's really interesting or important to them, or they're going to share something that has been difficult that they've been going through. You know, life is so hard and there's so many things that we go through. And while we don't want to have a victim mentality and think that poor me, everything is just negative, why mention something? It's important that we feel supported and known in the difficulties that we go through. But you know, this requires courage. And it also changes the entire dynamic because it's the point of no return. Once you share something real or you hear something real, you can't unhear it, you can't unsee it. And you have a choice to make. And they have a choice to make. Am I going to be trustworthy? Am I going to take a risk on someone being trustworthy and share this thing? Or am I going to hold back? And every single time when we make that decision, it's worth it. Now, I can sit here and tell you that, but until you practice this and do it for yourself, you won't know. And so I encourage you, that's what you want to do with the depth move to take it from surface level to deep. Now, the last facet a lot of guys ask are, what if it's awkward? What if I don't know what to say? You just name it. That sounds so simple, but it's like if you ever taken driver's ed, the test you have to pass in order to get your driver's license, they say to actually say out loud verbally to the instructor, I'm nervous. And that sounds really simple, but just calling something as it is very cathartic. It allows us to really let go of the seriousness of something and just name it for what it is. Doesn't mean that's how it has to stay, but it's okay. I mean, if you know it's awkward, right? So you say something like, this is kind of weird to say, but I actually want to stay in touch, or I'm wondering if, you know, we can follow up and hang out again. Now, you're saying it's weird to say because you personally feel awkward. You never want to speak for someone else and say something like, I know this was awkward. That's insecurity. We don't want that. What we want is something that is, again, calm and confident, but honest. Hey, I'm struggling a little bit, but, and then just sharing. You know, most people really respect and relate to the difficulty it takes of certain situations. By naming it, you also build trust because it shows you're human, you're real, you're not trying to perform or put on some sort of mask that shows that you're too good, too strong, too smart, too put together, all that kind of stuff. people actually relate more to those who are struggling, not in a way where they're a burden to someone, but in a genuine way where, hey, I go through stuff too. I don't have it all figured out. That honesty is way more connecting than any smooth, curated social move. So these are the steps to making male friends.